I will make them feel that they are the most important person in the building, always. And so I live by three things I'll share. One is, it sounds simple, but I listen. I humble myself and I go back and I talk to every cook. And so when I would go into a building, I would ask these questions. How are you doing? And are we taking care of you?
Right. And
you would get an answer back.
Today on the Prosper Brief, our host Luke Kircher leads a dynamic conversation with three industry visionaries: Cord Mclean of Bloomin Brands, Emily Austin from Ziosk, and Ray Johnson of ReCee's Leadership Consulting Group. Together, they explore the evolution of leadership, the role of technology in hospitality, and how to balance innovation while preserving authentic guest experiences.
Welcome to the Prosper Brief, a show dedicated to elevating the future of food service for the hospitality, food service and hospitality industry. I'm your host, Luke Kircher with Prosper Forum. Joining me for the incredible panel today, we have Ray Johnson with ReCee's Hospitality. We have Cord Mclean with Bloomin Brands, and we have Emily Austin with Ziosk.
Yes.
So thank you, team, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for
having us.
Thank you guys. Glad to be part of it.
Yeah. So conversation for today is we're looking at leadership in our industry and how that is continually evolving. And so what I wanted to ask each of you, just kind of frame up, is first and foremost, I want to start with a little bit more of your story. Let's talk 2 minutes on just the journey and kind of where you're at in your career, kind of the role within the organization that you have. And then we will transition into how that continues to evolve. So, Emily, would you mind if I ask, would you like to start first?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Emily Austin. I oversee the marketing at Ziosk. And my role there is to really start to build brand presence, to let people know who Ziosk is and what we are, the solutions that we're bringing to the table. I don't know if you know much about Ziosk, but we really pioneered pay at the table. And we didn't really have a strong voice in the industry to tell that story. And it's not that it's a story about us, but it's about how we're empowering the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry to provide better hospitality to their guests. And so that's really why I'm there, is just to be able to amplify our purpose and be able to get the solution to the right hands, into the brands that are really leaning into digital solutions, and helping them do more, especially with the labor crisis today, helping them do more with less.
I love it.
Awesome. Yeah. Cord, how about yourself, sir?
Yeah. Cord Mclean, Director of Inclusive Leadership from Bloomin Brands. So if you're not familiar with Bloomin Brands, we are actually home to Outback Steakhouse, Carrabba's Italian Grill, Bonefish Grill, Fleming's Prime Steakhouse and Wine Bar. Some iconic brands within the portfolio. Really excited to be here with you all today. This program, Prosper, and all things connected to this organization are what I love and what I do. So I oversee diversity, equity, inclusion, leadership development, employee experience, culture, some of the fun people stuff, right? But really helping people think about kind of who they are and how they get to the next level within our organization. And so that is my journey. This is work that I have been doing for quite a while, very kind of new to the industry. Wouldn't say very new. It's been over 5 years at this point, but prior to coming to Bloomin Brands, I was in higher education. So was doing this work, social change, leadership development, diversity, equity, inclusion at a number of colleges and universities, University of Georgia, Texas A&M University, University of South Florida. But very excited to be here with you all and with all of these great industry leaders talking about leadership in our great industry.
Thank you. Yeah. And you, sir?
Well, I tell you what, I'm impressed with you guys already, because I love every time I go in a restaurant, I see that little on the table. I spent more $1.99s on the games and getting started on that. It's just an automatic add-on. So my kids would never ask me, could they? They would just go ahead and hit the $1.99 button. One of my best friends was one of the early Outback Steakhouse guys in Louisville. In Southern Illinois, in Missouri. Always been an Outback fan. I love it. I love Outback style steak or prime rib, right? Yeah. So I love it. But just a Reader's Digest version of myself. I've been in the restaurant business for 35 plus years, mainly in operation, but I've been at every level. And I always said to myself, I will always do all the things at every level I loved. I would keep doing those. And the things I hated, I would never do those to my people. And that's been my motto coming up through operation, is really driving performance through operations and people first. And so it was always very important for me to really understand that people have skill. It's about engaging and inspiring people to do the job. And all I do is support. So I've been I've been with TGI Fridays. I was with Darden when they were called General Mills at the time. And when I was with TGI Fridays, I was director of operations. Left TGI Fridays and went to start my own petroleum company called St. Louis Petroleum and Marketing. And that was somewhere where I knew nothing about gasoline except for the price on the sign on the door. But it was the best leadership lesson I had learned in my life, because I didn't know the product, but I was CEO of a company and I had 200 people who worked for me who knew way more about petroleum than I did. And I had to learn to really humble myself and be the servant leader to learn without giving up power and lead the company. So that taught me a tremendous lesson. And from there, I went to work for Cracker Barrel, and everything from a district manager to a regional vice president and a divisional vice president. And I learned a ton there because, you know, responsibility in a brand like that, an iconic brand like that, it was tremendous. And we went on that West Coast and we opened stores in the West Coast where we knew nothing about going to California. But when I left Cracker Barrel, I knew there was a lot of people, whether you owned franchise stores or you were just being a single entrepreneur, that really needed help in this space. And my comment to them always is that I can't do it. It's a conflict of interest. But I always kept my eye out that there's a lot of people who are taking their entire savings and putting it into the business, and they need help. They need onboarding help. They need understanding. So I said, how can I leverage my 35 plus years? And it's really a passion of mine, because what I love is operation. It's all about operations driving people, sales, and profit. And when you understand that and you put everything towards that, just have to have a level of mastery. So I am excited about being here with this great panel. I'm looking to learn some stuff from what you do and leverage that. But I learned from everybody I ever come across, Luke. And I tell you, I've sat and talked to grill cooks, and they've told me stuff that I would have never known. I've sat back and talked with waiters or waitresses, and they've told me things about service that I would have never imagined. So this is always a platform in our industry that we can always learn and become better in.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. And you know, the setup for this, we're here at the Inspire headquarters for the Prosper Accelerator Retreat. And you know, you touched on something that John Kelly spoke yesterday, who's the president for Inspire Brands. And we were fortunate enough to have address our community yesterday, and that level of curiosity, right? So I'm going to start with that as kind of the framework. And what I'm curious is, you know, what is the leadership style and how have things evolved in leadership over the last several years, particularly, you know, I don't mean to use COVID as the mile marker, right? But how has leadership evolved in the last several years? And Cord, I'd love to start with you on that. Yeah. What have you seen in the changes here?
Yeah, I think, you know, COVID, you know, to your point, we don't want to go back there, right? But I think it was a disruptor, right? It really gave people the opportunity to think about themselves, their lives, right, in a very different way, as we were just trying to be whole, right, in very different ways. And so as I think about leadership and how that has evolved, you know, back then, even 10 years ago, we were in the more post-industrial models of leadership, right? We were thinking about relational leadership, knowing and being and doing. But I think there's been a transition of the more human-centric leadership. How do you put the person, the whole person, at the center, right, of the work experience, of the life experience, right? We talk about work-life balance. To me, it's all life, right? And so how do you put the person at the middle of it? And that's what leadership, to me, has evolved to be. You know, there's this famous Maya Angelou quote, right? You've probably heard it, you hear it a lot, but the essence is, you know, people will forget what you said and did, but not how you made them feel. And to me, that's what leadership is about, right? It's what are the conditions that you're creating for others to be their best selves, to
Right.
contribute the most that they can and the best that they can to your organization, to drive
Right.
the profitability and the results that we want to see. But at the heart of it, it's people living lives, and we create the conditions for them to do that in the best ways.
I love that. Well, and it's definitely been a return in the focus to the investment in people understanding and accepting and embracing a lot of the unique characteristics and what makes them the individuals that they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We've seen that and heard that routinely with a lot of the leaders that are taking the stage and sharing within this community, but also just the expectation from our frontline employees and those that are working in this great industry. But I think it's even beyond our industry, right?
Yeah.
Is you're seeing that as a focus across, all industries, all business, all offices.
Yeah.
And so, Emily, I'll kind of turn the mic over to you on this. With the evolution and shift and change in the leadership format, do you see those same things? And then how are you adapting kind of that environment as well? How has that changed your focus?
Yeah, I would have to echo that. I think the focus on people is priority. I think it used to be that it was performance first. And it's really a balance of people and performance. Like we heard yesterday, without people, you don't have a business.
That's right.
And so it's developing that talent. It's identifying great talent and being able to lift them up. One thing I learned very quickly in my career was, and as cliche as it sounds, there is no I in team. I remember coming into my role and I was the director of marketing and I was directing myself. Okay. There was no team. I was just the director of one. And for a time, right, I could do a lot of things.
Right.
They weren't great. Everything felt very DIY, homemade. And so very quickly, I knew that I needed to bring in the right expertise and bring the right people to the table to help develop the vision that I had for the organization. And so, it would be very outdated of me to think that I was the only one with an answer. And so bringing people along for the journey, I think is the modern, but also the future way of leading, not just people, but the organization.
Right.
We all have to rise together. I feel a deep sense of responsibility for the people that are on my team and the people that are even in our organization. They depend on this work, and they're also living their life's purpose, right? They feel passionate about whether it's design or development or IT, whatever talents they're bringing. We want to nurture those talents because they're bringing their whole hearts right into the job, and it's our job to grow them and help them achieve even more than they started.
Right.
So that's really how I see leadership evolving. Again, it starts with the individual. Ultimately, yes, to deliver performance, but I think growing the individual first and really caring about those individual people is the most important thing.
Well, and bridging those two comments, right? Understanding from a strategic initiative the impacts that when you understand the individual, the value that they can bring to the different circumstance, whether that's innovation, whether that's culture, whether that's numerous things across our great businesses. But if you don't invest in understanding who's even on your team,
That's right.
right? And so I love that bridge there. So I'm going to turn it over and ask you. Now, you've been in a multitude of industries. You had some incredible examples in your career, and you've also been an example. How has your leadership style evolved, given kind of the prior history, as well as stepping into this environment where there is just a multitude of experiences and a multitude of expectations to be successful in leading these individuals?
Yeah, I first of all, I think you guys are spot on. And I think one of the misses, Luke, that our environment, the macro environment of the restaurant industry missed was that coming out of COVID rather, it changed. People were still using the same muscle that they'd used before COVID.
Right.
And it wasn't the same. People weren't there. People had options. People decided that I don't want to be in this industry anymore. And so we had operators and leaders coming out trying to manage the same way. And people said, no, I don't feel the same. I just came out of something that was earth-shaking to me. I might have lost a family member. The miss was the agility of leadership to manage with that and involve with that. And that was lagging. So one of the things that I recognized right away, it was a different muscle needed. It was a muscle of engaging, figuring out how people are doing first. How's your family? and then get into the business of the business. And that was new for a lot of operators.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I did personally, that it was the beginning of my visit to understand how people are doing.
Right.
How's your life? How's your family? And people became committed to it because they know it was more than about the business. It was about, you care about me, you care about. And so now people would say, I got to choose where I'm going to work. Guess what? I choose you because it's different here. And that was really a big miss for the industry in general. And the last thing I'll say is that one of the disciplines that was needed was that no one understood how to manage during COVID. And so if anybody told you they had all the answers, with the boss, they were lying to you, because I would go in and say to my people humbly, it's like, we're going to figure this out together, because fortunately, we've never been through it before.
Right.
But let's figure it out together. And I think just being humble and being a servant leader and say, I don't have the answers, but guess what? I'm in the foxhole with you,
Right.
and we're going to figure this out. And it made a big difference. And I think what that inspired was commitment. And I think before COVID, people didn't think about, I really need commitment at a higher level now to be able to drive my business. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges.
Well, and
Might I love that, retweet all of that. Might I add what I think you talk about old muscle. One of the old muscles as well was like, see a problem, fix a problem. And I think part of that human-centric leadership is you don't have to fix. Sometimes being in it, allowing the conversation, allowing the space. That's a different muscle in leadership that we hadn't seen, especially in operators, right? Operators want to fix the problem, right? You gotta solve.
To the point, I would go in and say, and it was shock value, what are you doing to keep your employees?
Right.
And guess what they were there? They were always repeat the question back. What am I doing to keep my employees? Because if you go in and say, what are you doing to grow sales? That was the standard answers. But it was about retention. It was about keeping people. It was about letting people know you're the most important people, asset in this building. And that was a weak muscle, to your point, that people didn't understand to go, if I lose somebody, hire somebody. Well, guess what? They're not there.
Right.
So it's about retention. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback, I had someone the other day, they said, a strategy that I've always implemented with my spouse is, are you asking me to listen to the problem, or are you asking me to help solve the problem, right? And so I really embrace that. But one of the things that you said that really sparked more kind of a tagline for me on this, and I'll hand it off to my friends over at Mount Air, wonderful partners with us at Prosper, but they have this persona within their organization of a culture of care, right? And so when we talk about this, and I'm going to pivot a little bit more to the mental health, the executive health of our industry and our organization. But the only way as leaders that we can help serve and support each other is if you're investing enough to understand even what's going on in their lives. And it's not, we have this expectation that every single person in your organization, which I mean, some of these organizations, you have tens of thousands of people in your organizations. You can't know every single individual, right? But with those within certain orbits of your proximity, how are you investing to understand and know at a personal level what's going on with them, their kids, their spouses, their extended family? I mean, we're in a time where, how are you taking care of your parents, your kids, your grandkids, whatever it may be? So from a strategic standpoint, and also from just, bringing humanity back to business, what are some of the strategies that you're implementing within your team to help support from a mental health and wellness perspective within your organization? And Cord, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So one, I think, is, equipping managers and leaders specifically. We talk about the difference between managers and leaders. We manage projects, we lead people, right? And so we think about our leaders, equipping them with the tools to ask the right questions, right? To know it's about more than the business. It's about cultivating the relationship and being in it, right, with our people, ensuring that they have the space to share, knowing what the commute looks like, right? If they're remote in a different part of the country, what's going on there that might be impacting how they show up, right? Or where their head might be at a particular time, right? And so just giving people different tools, different resources, different types of questions that you might ask to get at the heart of what your people's experience is, I think is important. some more formal ways that we are engaging our team members. So if you think about employee resource groups, usually they're around, identities, different, underrepresented groups and experiences and backgrounds. One of our employee resource groups at Bloomin Brands is a group called Bloomin Balance, and it is committed to all things wellness, right? And so everything from our physical to our mental to financial wellness as well. And so it is the group that is the largest. Because it's a group that touches everyone's experience is in some way tied to, one of those aspects, right, of wellness. Someone cares about one of those aspects of wellness. And so we've had a great opportunity to engage people differently through that employee resource group, whether it's, your runs and your walks and things to encourage some of that physical piece, but on the mental health side, having conversations around what's happening in our restaurants, the types of stressors that are impacting our people, and what are the tools and resources, whether that's EAP, suicide awareness and prevention, right? All of those heavy conversations that we have traditionally shied away from. Right. We have to talk about them now because people are coming into our doors and bringing their whole and full selves. And some of that is messy, right? But we have to lean into that to get the best again out of our people. And so really proud of that group, of our employee resource group program, all of the identities, right, that we touch and that we engage through our employee resource group program. But Bloomin Balance specifically leans into those conversations around mental health and mental awareness, because again, those are the things that our people are bringing to our organization every single day, and shaping and informing the experience that they're having with each other.
Well, and these unique experiences that each of us have, they've always existed.
Absolutely.
It's just now organizations and industries and businesses are taking a posture of, this is important, I need to invest. And we're not shying away from, hey, gosh, can we touch that? Can we get anywhere near that? No. In fact, that's right. We're using that as a place to make you feel safe and help support you through those situations. And whatever the need may be, right? I mean, each one of us has different faculties that we need.
Absolutely. Right.
So we focus a lot on the programs and things and the implementation of those throughout the organization, but even amongst executives, what I find, and I've been fortunate to sit at a lot of boardroom tables and executive room tables, but amongst the leadership team, Emily, have you seen anything? I mean, we just heard Marie Rivera, CEO with Small Sliders. She made the comment from stage of, it's lonely at the top, right? As an executive in our industry, and as you continue with your leadership path, what is the mental health? How do we continue to support those that are in those leadership roles?
It's a great question. So something that I've started to do myself is, and this is actually, it's kind of funny to admit, but I did hear it from TikTok. That's where, TikTok University is where you learn all the good things. But this was actually really impactful for my life. So what I started to do is every morning I start a prayer at my desk. And I promise myself and I pray that I don't idolize my position, my title, my work, my office space. I'm there to do my best work, to bring my best, abilities, my God-given talents to this organization and to the industry at large. And I'm going to do that with a really big heart. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be able to separate, my human ability from the work. I'm gonna really leave that to God. And I know that's probably really spiritual, but really important to me. And I encourage my team to do the same. And I think what that does is it automatically takes the pressure off of, I need to perform at my absolute human best, and I need to leave it all on the table. And it really isn't. It isn't that. It isn't that serious. It never was, right? And at the end of the day, I love what you said about it's not work or life. It's all life, right? And you're living your life at work. And the people that you're at work with, they are, that's probably some of the people that you're going to spend the most of your life with.
Truly.
And so how do we make it a safe zone so that everybody feels like they can bring their best talents, they can bring their best heart, and they can do things with integrity and with a lot of love. But at the end of the day, again, it's about the individual making sure that they're given opportunities to thrive, to feel like they're winning, they're being encouraged, and that they can feel proud of the work that they're leaving every day feeling very proud of themselves. So that's my mentality and my philosophy around whether it's at the very top and executive level, all the way, across the organization.
Right.
Bring your best and then leave the rest behind.
I
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Bring your
that.
best
I
and
love
leave the
that.
rest.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
that
being
down.
That's
vulnerable with
awesome.
that, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Ray, on your side, you've been in a wonderful position where you've got a lot of individuals throughout your career that look up and mentor, and you've shared even some of the texts and the comments, and you are so good about just nudging people at the right times and right moments, right?
Yeah.
So for you, how do you model or encourage or mentor kind of that mental health element of it? I mean, you've been an executive for a number of years. How are you modeling that for others?
Yeah, I first of all, I love what you guys are saying. I wish I'm trying to sneak over there to make some notes. But
Same, like, gotta remember that.
It's a great question. And I live by the motto, I just remember how I felt when, for example, when a vice president, when I was a general manager and he came into the store and I was going through a rough time personally. And he would spend a whole day there. This is, as they like to say, old school, back in the mid 90s or whatever. And you would almost not be visible because they would leave and not even know you. And so I always said I would never do that to my people.
Right.
I will make them feel that they are the most important person in the building, always. And so I live by three things I'll share. One is, it sounds simple, but I listen. I humble myself and I go back and I talk to every cook. And so when I would go into a building, I would ask these questions. How are you doing? And are we taking care of you?
Right.
And you would get an answer back. It wasn't like, thank you. But no, when you ask those questions, they will tell you.
Right.
Two is, after I commit to something, my audio had to match up to my video. So if I said, we care about you, when I walk into the building, I better show the video that we care about you. And so that's sitting down and really, example, I never ate lunch alone in the restaurant. Hey, how are we doing? How are we taking care of you? How are we doing in our store? So it was always about our store, not my store, not their store, but our store.
Yeah.
And the last thing was, I use this phrase all the time and it's really helped me. I said, even when I was asking questions, I would ask it like that. Hey, I'm seeking to understand.
Right.
That was my favorite phrase. I'm seeking to understand, because it doesn't mean that that person's wrong or I'm right, but I want to get their point of view and I'm always seeking to understand. And people would just exhale and say, okay, the boss wants my understanding. He wants to know my point of view. So I love that it's really about engaging people. I think people have skill. I think what most leaders do, they try to get transactional accomplishment, but it's about discretionary effort.
Right.
So if I can get commitment, I don't need to tell you when it's midnight that you need to do this right. You do it because you love what you're doing. And that's the discretionary effort that you can't get. So that's my point of view. And that's the way I've always looked at
You
it.
use that term discretionary effort.
Yes.
I love that. Share a
Yes.
little bit more. What is discretionary effort?
There would be times that nobody would be in the building at TGI Fridays at 1:00 in the morning. I could have probably walked out and not had a perfect restaurant set up for the next day. But because I loved who I was working for, I knew he cared about me. I loved the brand. They cared about me. And so guess what? It's not a compliant scenario. It's a committed scenario. So I'm going to take the extra time. I'm not getting paid any more money. I will not lose my job if I don't do it. But guess what? I'm going to do it because I care about who I work for and the brand I support.
Right.
And those are the things that at Cracker Barrel, I tell you, Cracker Barrel's a hard brand. Yeah. And when I was there, because there's no other brand like it, 3 day parts. But one of the things that was very, very successful for me, my team would run through a wall for me. And I love my team, and my team knew I loved them and they loved me. And they would just do things that I would hear about the next day. Hey, boss, let me tell you what I got done for you. And I would go, whoa, thank you. That's awesome. So that's what I mean by discretionary effort.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Committed, not compliant.
Yeah, committed,
Beautiful.
not compliant. I love doing what I do because I work for Cord, I work for Luke, I work for Emily. I'm doing it because I know it's important to them. I know it's part of what's important to the brand. It's important to our guests. And so from my prism, I always looked at it that do what's important to the brand, be disciplined to it. What's important to the guests, be disciplined to it. And what's important to you as an employee. And my audio had to match up to the video, that if I said that, everything I did had to show that.
Right.
So,
I love that.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
great nuggets.
yeah.
I'm going to pivot a little bit. Right. I know. Mike
has
right
been
there.
interrupted.
No, remember, I got my pad over here as you guys are talking. That's what I'm doing. So
Wow.
thank you guys. Thank you.
It's like therapy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit over to, we're in a time and phase, unlike any others, where adaptability and how the acceleration of innovation technology is just coming at such a speed and pace, right? And particularly, I mean, you're leading in that space with Ziosk. And, how do we help support our teams to adjust to the pace and cadence of adaptability and innovation? I mean, how are we training and supporting them in their success story and journey?
Such a good question. I hate to be repetitive, so I'm sorry I continue to talk about the human experience, but I think it's a very important part of it, especially as we're talking about technology, because there's a very fine line, and especially with the advancements of AI, there's a lot of conversation around, is AI going to now take over everything? Much like a few years ago, is technology going to take over everything? And I think what we've learned over time is that there is no replacement for the human connection.
Yes.
Right.
There are tools that will help advance and streamline and make things better, but there is no replacement yet for the human connection.
Right.
So I think that at the heart of everything that we're doing, we're always thinking about, okay, how is that going to impact the individual, whether that's the guest or that's
Yes.
the service team
Yes.
or, the business at large. How will this have an impact on them? And so, I think it's a very fine balance. It's something that you have to orchestrate. Especially in the technology, you have to prioritize
Yes.
that everything that you're developing at the end of the day is for a human to experience and to
Yes.
get
Right.
something out of it. And so that's how we're approaching technology and the advancements and agility around that as well. We never want to be too fast to develop
That's right.
something and then it doesn't deliver on the purpose of, this was a tool that was really efficient for somebody, or it really delivered on a better experience.
Right.
So I say agility is one of those things where you also have to, you can't go too fast, you can't go too slow, but you really have to make calculated
That's right.
steps
Right.
to make it great.
Yeah,
We're very committed to the experience, and we understand the responsibility that carries at the business level, at the human level. And so we're very careful with that.
I love that.
Love it.
Yep.
And Cord, I recognize and realize you're not necessarily in a tech role or function directly, but innovation happens in a multitude of ways that manifests
For
itself
sure.
within the organizations, right? And so within your space, and how have you experienced and seen, innovation, but more importantly, I want to focus on when you look at what are you innovating and the partnerships that are driving those things. How are you evaluating what areas are you looking to innovate within your business? So for example, whether it's different programs that you're looking to roll out, how much of that calculation is part of, okay, this is the organization, the brand behind it that is going to be implementing and rolling these things out. That partnership piece is so critical to the success story.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about kind of
Yeah.
how you look at and evaluate those
I was
pieces?
going to say the partnership piece. That's that, right? That's the key. And we have great brands within our portfolio, and being able to test and learn with them is so important, right? Being able to look at my Fleming's team and say, hey, we have this idea that's a people thing, right? But before we go system, let's see how this works, right? And so a lot of pilot, a lot of test
Yes.
and learn and troubleshoot happens in our space as well, right? And so great opportunity to really think about mindset, right? When
Right.
I think about adaptability, flexibility, it's mindset, right?
Sure.
And we talk about fixed versus growth mindset. It's one of our competencies, our leadership competencies at the individual contributor level.
Right.
So you're not even waiting to get to director or VP before you're thinking about growth mindset. Everyone in our organization, from our individual contributors and up, are thinking about, hey, here's the SOP, right? Here's the playbook. Here's the clear direction that we have, but you have to be able to be nimble, right? To be agile, right? And to flex to meet the moment, right? You never know what that guest is going to ask for, right?
That's right.
You never know what that piece of equipment is going to do, right? You never know what that engagement survey is going to say, right? And so all of these different inputs really drive how we show up every day in all of our spaces, right? And so being in the leadership development, DEI, and employee experience, talent management spaces, there are still so many things that we have to be forward thinking, right? About how people are thinking about their lives and careers, right? Is the place that we have to innovate. It's not just do the job and do the job well and get to the next step, right? It's about, career journeys, career paths that might be lateral, right? There might be, more skill-based learning and development, right? And so really having conversations around how do we innovate and help people think about their own lives and careers in a different way is the space that we're in right now, right? And so, this idea around adaptability and flexibility, to me, it goes back to, and it's all rooted in mindset, right? And getting out of the fixed mindset and really leaning into what's the art of the possible, right? And how can we help people along that journey?
100%. Oh, and it's interesting because there's that idea of it's a straight shot to the top.
Yeah,
it's never a straight shot to the top. Yeah, and in fact, you're the best leaders out there.
Right.
It is that focus on curiosity and experiencing so many different attributes within organizations, so that way you are competent in each of those spaces and regards, right? So I really appreciate that, and I mean it's incredible. The innovation that you've been able to implement with your team, but more so the adoption of that. Like that's the real struggle.
Yes.
It's not just identifying,
That's
hey, this is a great new product, this is a great new solution. It's getting the buy-in from the hundreds, if not thousands of other individuals that have to buy on and say, hey, you know what? I'll embrace that.
Yeah.
I'll try
And
that out.
sustain,
And
right?
sustain
So
it.
we got it out here and it was great. It was a great launch. And then, a month, 2 months later, is it still living and breathing? Is it, actually having the impact that you want? Like that's the challenge.
Right.
And I think, and also just to add to innovation, I still keep thinking about yesterday's conversation around how, it's not about the next robot.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the next spatula.
Yeah.
What are we going to bring to the table that
That's
is
right.
innovative enough to impact the issues of today, the real problems?
Right.
It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be complex. It just has to work.
Yeah.
And so innovations can come in a lot of different sizes and shapes and sizes. And I think it's an
I
important
think you guys
conversation.
nailed it. And by the way, I hit record as you guys are talking. So in my notes section, so I'm taking it out.
Yeah.
So, but I think that balance is tremendously important because it's always about the guest experience.
Yes.
How do you make me feel?
Yeah.
It's not transactional. And so one of the things I've been watching a lot is this off-premise scenario, because what restaurants have pivoted to, I'll put your bag on the stand, you go and get it, we have no interaction.
Yeah.
And that's important, but it's not an and or conversation, it's an and. So how do I give the guest experience hospitality to let you know you're the most important person to me, but at the same time, layer on technology so I could make it more efficient for you, better, faster, and all of that. And so what's happening is a lot of brands are in this and or. And I say to people, it's an and.
It's an and.
How do I make you feel special that I'm the obvious choice? You chose me, but I got it fast and efficient for you and it's ready to go. And I think brands that get that right will win. But just put my bag up and you pretend you don't see me, or you decide to roll out a program that was built at the corporate office and it's more of a push down as opposed to engaging and say, hey, our core values are still important, that our guests are the most important, our guest and employee experience are the two most important things. But how do we layer this in and get the balance of both?
Right.
And that's the question that has to be answered that I think people struggle with right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to change the cadence and format a little bit here. We're going to go a little bit more rapid fire on things.
Okay.
I'm going to ask for a SWOT analysis, and we'll keep kind of the rotation just so it gives you a little bit of time to get ready for the next one. But when I frame this, I want to ask, SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'll let you interpret that from either kind of your role or function within the organization or just more 30,000 foot view holistically for our industry. But I want to focus on things that are not 5 years, 10 years down the road. I'm not talking about robots taking over all of our kitchens and everything else, right?
Right.
But just over the next 12, 18, 24 months, what do you see as kind of the greatest strength? We'll start there. Within the industry, and I'll give you each of you, if you want to explain and kind of go a little bit deeper, 15, 30 seconds, perfect, but I want to keep the cadence moving fairly quickly. So Ray, I'll start with you. Strengths in the industry.
I think our leadership and catching up and evolving, I'm impressed with that. I don't believe that we are way behind. I think we're catching up and we're running with the industry and what's important to our guests. Weaknesses, I think just having agility and growing talent in our industry, and what we've been talking about here and what Prosper does very well is development. We got to have people who we're pouring into and not leaving out. I think people love our industry, but they got to know they're important, and there's a runway for you, and there's development, and you care about me. And I think that is a weakness that we got to make into a strength.
Okay, hold on though. I want to give you time on each one of these. You're like rapid fire all four of them, right?
I've thought about this. I just think about this way too much. No, because I love our industry.
Clearly, I mean, it is absolutely. But I want to give you time on each one of these as well. So, Cord, let's start with strength on your side. What do you see for strengths in the industry?
Yeah, I love what Prosper talks about, the industry for all, right? We employ everyone, we feed everyone. And so to me, that's the strength, right? And the heart of this industry. Like, everyone touches it in some way. And so there's such an opportunity to really capitalize and really optimize that through how we engage, right, with the world around us. So that's the biggest strength, is that, we feed all, we serve all, we employ all, we engage all. It is an everybody industry. Right.
It can't be outsourced.
No.
Emily, yourself?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And I loved what was it? This industry is the first job for most people. And it certainly was for me as well.
Right.
And I feel like it introduced me to how to be a better host, right? I learned so much. I would say I learned more through the industry of hospitality than I even learned in college, because it gives you such a flavor for how do you relate to people, how do you serve a dish, what spoon do you start with? I mean, those are they're social skills, but those are things that you carry with you through your whole life, and so those were kind of pillars and cornerstones. But as it pertains to what I'm excited about and what I think are the key strengths right now of this industry is the efficiencies that are being created through technology. Some of my favorite moments right now engaging with whether it's a retail brand or a restaurant are technology driven. Some of my favorite things that came out of COVID were curbside pickup.
Right.
Okay. That was a service that at one point I thought was only reserved for like the very wealthy or the very, the famous people, but now it's accessible to everybody. Being able to just pre-order, pick it up, or have somebody delivered it to your home. That type of service is incredible, especially with how fast the world is moving and just how busy we all are. To be able to have and access something like that is phenomenal. Even digital keys for your hotel room, being able to bypass the service desk and go directly to your room because you're tired and you're ready to get your evening started.
Right.
All of those things were birthed from the need of efficiency. Technology is able to deliver that, and that's what I am the most excited about. I think that needs to be paired with some other things I'm sure we'll talk about, but I think it needs to be paired with with security.
Yes.
I think it's really important. I think we need to not overlook security, especially as people are coming into your home delivering goods, or
Right.
we're putting our kids in Ubers. Now there's Uber teens, things like that. We got to be thinking about
Right.
safety for
That's
all. And then again, it's just making sure we don't lose sight of the hospitality of it. And I think you said it so well, making sure that we're training the people so that it's not about this or that, or it's not about technology or the human touch. It is a complement.
Right.
And I've been to restaurants where even with technology or without, it's how that server made me feel about the experience, right? And it's how they took care of me. And the technology or not was the icing on the top. So that's what I'm excited about, is continuing to create efficiencies and better experiences.
So I did not mean to interrupt you last time, Ray.
No.
You were just so rapid fire on this. You're ready to go. You know the answer.
Yes, I just think about our great industry all the time, and what keeps me up at night is like, stop doing that. It's, you need to be thinking about this. So anyway, I'm very passionate about it.
So what do you see as the weakness that we should be keeping an eye on for the horizon? What's the greatest? I know you started on that and I interrupted you, so I want to go back to it.
Well, one of the things I think is very important, and Emily, I think you said it, 90+%, I don't know the exact, are people who have had some experience in the restaurant business.
Right.
And so at some point they say, I'm going to do something else, or I didn't like what I see, or some people say, I want to be in this business, but it's not for me. And I think part of that is because it goes back to the audio video. What do we tell them about the business, and what do we show them about the business? And you say it's great. I see it's not. I see a work-life balance that's not there. And I think we have to provide clarity there. And so my motto is now about restaurant. I mentor some students at Kentucky State and Tennessee State that were not thinking about this business, but when you provide clarity and you keep it simple and you make it align, they go, oh, I did know this. Here's what I thought. Here's my expectations about it. Here's my reality about it. And those have got to match up. And so I spend a lot of time talking to people about, here's what's great about our business. Here's what you can expect about our business. And here's the reality of our business. And when people get that, I think they make the right decision, not the comfortable decision. I got to do it because I need money, but they make the right decision. And it goes back to, now I'm committed to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and the need to continue to work for the money, that is only a short term.
That's right.
They will find other paths, other opportunities. There's a lot of ways to make an income.
Right.
It doesn't have to be in our industry. We've got to be an employer of choice.
Right. Exactly.
Cord, what do you see as the greatest weakness for us?
Yeah, I think similarly, and this is one that could be weakness, opportunity, threat. We could be a combo here, but I think that first job kind of mentality, or that perception, could also be the biggest weakness, right? For for the industry, right? It's this idea that it is the entry, it is the first job versus could be the forever job. It could be the career path. It could be the way that you grow and elevate yourself and your family and provide, right? It could lead you to so many different opportunities, right? But if the perception holds that it is, just that thing you do to get you through school, right? Or it is that first, job, I think, while that's exciting, right? For us as an entry point, right? It could also be a big weakness from a talent perspective, right? How do we really equip and engage and retain talent for the next level, if that is the mindset, right? Or the perception that we lean into as an organization or as an industry.
Well, and I really appreciate that. And I mean, for us on the Prosper side, that's one of those things that we really focus on as well, is the identification of that talent and development, right? We're the first employer for so many individuals. The ability for us to retain talent. I mean, it's kind of like when you first start using a product, you stick with that product because you know it, you love it, you trust it. Exactly, right? So why are we hemorrhaging so much of our great talent? So we've got to go back to identifying that talent, helping to foster and provide them a roadmap of, hey, there's some great opportunity here. This is the employer, this is the industry that you should be sticking with, right? So Emily, yourself, weakness in the industry.
Yeah, I think, we touched on it a little bit, but I think the biggest weakness is where we are losing the hospitality.
Right.
We just are. There used to be a time where I could go to a hotel and my doors would, be open for me, or I'd go to a restaurant and they would remember my name, or they would know, those little touches, all those little touches that were so important to the experience. And it's very rare to see that now. Even if you're paying top dollar, you're going to the best restaurant or the best hotel, the hospitality feels like it's getting lost. Yes. Simple things like a please, a thank you, may I get your door, eye contact. Right. Those are simple things that should never be lost. Yeah. And somehow, and I don't know if we're just not doing a great job of modeling that for the next generation or for the next group that's coming through, or maybe we're relying too much on, maybe we're taking it for granted and we think that's what everybody's supposed to do, so that's what they're going to do. Right. But we can't. I think we need to be intentional about training our people to bring hospitality to the table. That is your number one job, is to serve and to make your customer, your guest feel seen, feel valued, and feel like their investment of that time with you at that restaurant, making the choice to come to your restaurant, to your venue, was a good choice because you're going to take care of them. Yeah. And I feel like that's getting a little bit lost. That I would say that's the biggest weakness.
Well, and I love it, but it's the authentic hospitality.
The authentic,
that's the thing, is it's got to be that personalized. The scheduled things where it actually, I think it does more damage than good when you have more of the scheduled hospitality moments. Somebody sends you a gift and it's like, that is totally the wrong thing.
Right. And Luke, to your point about authentic hospitality, and to your point, Emily, about that. So I always say the best committed guest in a restaurant is the one you recovered, and you show them that we made a mistake. I personally want to make it right. I care about you. Right. It's about that transaction, and we did not meet your expectation. Let me personally take care of that, and let me go out of the way. And Luke, you and I both were in Florida, and our prayers go out to the families who've been affected by Milton. But Luke and I was down there. So I'm calling airlines. My family is with me. I want to get out. I don't want to push the number 3 and get a recording. I want someone to care about my flights have gotten canceled. There's a Cat 5 hurricane coming. So those type of things that when I push, I want to speak to someone. Yeah. Right. I want someone to care about what I'm experiencing. You don't have to solve it. I just want you to chat with you and engage it. So I say all that to say, I think it's very important what we're talking about at this table, because again, it's not an and or conversation. Right. I could layer on technology with hospitality to let you know you're urgently important to me.
You're urgent.
And I
love that you said that. Urgently important. I'm going to do double.
Yes.
I'm going to go above and beyond and give you this extra touch point because you are urgent. I love that.
That's right.
That's the technology, right? Not in. Yeah. To your point, the either or, right?
Yeah,
right. Like this can accelerate, right? This can help.
Exactly.
That's right.
But
exactly.
It's not a replacement.
It's not a replacement.
But the acceleration and the urgency around that, so often I find, is empowering employees and allowing them to make decisions and supporting them in those decisions. Right. So I love when I can pick up the phone and somebody answers and I can be heard. Right. But I still want the resolution of it, right?
That's right.
And so often, our organizations, I find, are paralyzed by allowing the decision making at whatever level, at whatever front line, those employees, whatever it is. And sometimes, it's the simple little things, the authentic hospitality. Hey, it's your birthday. I want to do something for you. Mm-hmm. It's not, oh my gosh, there's we're one cookie short tonight that we didn't sell. Right?
I love that.
It's allowing for some of that over and above.
It's so important. It's so important. And I think that as we go down this road and we become so technology driven, so I'll just share this. So I remember when we started the dining room technology system, to where in the old days you had to write down everybody's name and that was their table 3, and I'll put it'll be 30 minutes. So we went to the dining room host system, and I remember rolling it out, and I remember pulling my entire team together. And I said, if I start going in restaurants and everybody's focused on the technology as opposed to greeting the guests and thanking them for their food and their service and how was it, and we're focusing on, did we get the technology right to put in the right button? I go, we are not aligned.
Right.
And it was very, very important to use that technology at the same time, layer it on for efficiency, but not lose it, to your point, that it's the most important thing.
Certainly. And it's, we see that a lot too
Yeah.
with our customers and our partners. I hate using the word customers, but our partners.
Right.
Because it's a lot of the deep conversations that we're having as
Yeah.
we're developing things like a server tablet,
Right.
or we're developing some other technologies to help with the efficiency. One thing that we are very aligned on is we don't want to take the touch point of taking the ordering off the guests or off the server's
Right.
hands. Like that is
Right.
their touch point. Building that relationship is
Right.
incredibly important. And so for us, what we want to preserve is the low touch moments where the
Right.
server doesn't have to be there. You don't
Right.
have to be waiting for a server to provide you anything. And that's usually at the end of the meal. Or
Right.
conversely, if at the beginning of the meal, when the server's still taking a couple other tables orders, how about we give you the urgency to go ahead and place that kid's order right at that kid's meal immediately
Right.
when you sit down. So it's a more
Absolutely.
comfortable experience
Right.
for you, or an appetizer so that we know you're hungry. We
Yes.
want to feed you. We're ready for you, but that
Absolutely.
server's not physically available.
Yes.
And so that's how we agree so much with that,
Yes.
right? And I think there's a fine balance. We don't want to
Exactly.
put the work on the guest. The guest is not there to do work.
That's right.
They're there to be served. And so what touch points can we come in, and we call it like bookend ordering? What touch points do we come in where we're really optimizing
Right.
that experience?
And Emily,
for
I say to people all the time, let me dine the way I want to dine.
let me dine.
Right.
Yes, give me
And
the options.
give me
right?
the option when I'm ready to go. I don't want to be looking at, let me dine my experience the way I want to
Right.
dine.
Yeah.
And when you recognize that, in which I think you guys are doing an awesome job with it, because when I'm sitting there and I'm in Texas Roadhouse or I'm in Outback, I get to decide, I'm tired of sitting here having the conversation. I'm ready to go.
Ready to
Right.
go.
That other 10 minutes for me looking for a server, waiting for them because I've told them no, I'm not ready for the 3 times in a row. It's not their fault.
Right.
But it's really important that we continue to layer that on. And I think it's great.
No, it's so true. And you also have to think about the server, right? We
Right.
think deeply about the server's job and the responsibility we have to help them
Right.
earn a living wage,
Yes.
right? And so much could be lost at the point when your guest is ready to leave and they cannot find you. And you may
That's
have just
right.
delivered the most exceptional experience, but they can't find you. Now they're frustrated and now your tip is impacted.
That's right.
So again, we think about we look at the big picture, we look
Right.
at everything, and we
Sure.
look at, are we doing the right thing by
That's
the
right.
service team, by the guests,
That's
for
right.
the business, and and at what touch points are we an invited guest at the table, and at what touch points are we need
You're
to just
exactly
be in
right.
the background.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that idea. And I kind of interpret that almost from a technology perspective, being an invited guest,
Yes.
right? At what point do you invite the technology to participate in
Correct.
the experience?
Correct. That's very important to us.
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot, which is why games are at the heart of our
Yes.
experience. We talk about turning meals into moments.
Yeah.
And so, if I'm on an awkward first date, how do I help you create a moment, spark a connection around the table with a game or a shared experience?
Right.
If I'm having dinner with my kids, how can I engage them in that experience? And now we have a memory that was made at Outback, or it was made, at
Right.
one of our favorite restaurants, and that does become a favorite place for us.
That trivia game is
The trivia around the table, it's so fun, right?
That trivia game is just like, my
is
kids, my wife was, look, all right, go to the trivia. I go, you have the same trivia on your iPad that you just got out of the car with. They go, no, we want this trivia. So
Thank you
kudos
for
to you
saying
guys.
that.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's so important that we recognize that we get to celebrate moments with people
Yes.
that are at that table, and so again, it's about preserving those moments, making it extra special. What else can we do to add to the hospitality to make your restaurant a memorable experience, a place that your family wants to come back to, a place that you want to come back to, and when you think about it, it makes you feel joyful.
Yes.
That's right. That's
So just to close out this segment, final one, very quick, rapid fire threats that you see in the industry.
I believe that development, and this starts with people, and I don't mean to be redundant, but I believe it starts with people. It never starts with profit. It never starts with sale. It starts with people. And I think unless we stop, drop, and roll on development and engaging people in our industry and getting talented people in our industry, and just rapid fire, I'll say this. I have a young man that I engaged with him as a sophomore in college that had been very successful in the restaurant business throughout high school, said that I did not want to go. It's in the restaurant business. It's not for me. And I walked him through a runway. Year 2, we're going to get you in as a team lead. Year 3, we're going to get you in some training. And once you graduate, you would be able to go in as an associate manager somewhere and make X amount of it. But walking him through and being that committed development for him, without that, he said, I would have never stayed in this industry. And we're losing people by the tens, hundreds, and thousands that want to be in our industry, but don't see the runway or the attachment or the engagement that they need to see. And I think that's a weakness, because I think technology cannot outrun development and what you spoke of, people engagement. And I think that's a weakness for us.
Thank you. Threats, Cord.
Choices.
I love that.
Options and choices. I think at multiple levels, right, of choices. I think first you look at the macro environment and everything is, going on. People have to make choices, right? We are, strapped in a lot of ways, right? People are choosing whether to dine in, to not dine, right, to eat at home, right? And so people have to make different decisions with their money in this environment right now. And so I think choices are just fact of the matter, right? The macro environment right now is kind of dictating kind of where we are and how we are, decisions that we have to make, right? About pricing and things like that, right? So choices definitely kind of impact us in a lot of ways, and it's a big threat. And I think the next layer is, if someone does make the choice to come in to a restaurant, they have so many options, right? So they have to make a choice, and you are just one of many, right? And so how do you stand out, right? How do you differentiate yourself? How do you stay core and true to who you are as a brand, right? But then also, what's that differentiator? Kind of what's that thing that you maybe do differently to bring people in the door or to get them online, right? Through an off-premise experience. So, to me, those are the biggest threats. People are making a lot of decisions and a lot of choices every day. And, the first is if they can even come to us. And if the answer is yes, it's which of us do they come to. So those are big threats.
All right.
I have to agree with that. I have to add, I think the threat is really value, because as the economy continues to change, how do you bring value without it being about pricing? And how do you create value that's bigger than that?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people have to eat. So we know that, and we're providing an environment for them to do that. And not to mention, dining out is so much more than just eating, right? It's entertainment. And so how are we providing overall value where they are ultimately choosing you because the spend was worth it? Not just in dollars, but what they got out of it, the experience, that was worth it. And there's many times I've been to restaurants where maybe it was a lot of money, but it was worth it. We had a great time. We'll go back there again, and we'll save our pennies to go back because we loved it. And the economy is going to ebb and flow. But if I have a special moment and I'm going to make a decision, I'm probably going to choose that place again. So how do you preserve the value so that, again, it's not about monetary value, but it's holistic?
That's right. I love that.
That's great.
Well, team, I sincerely appreciate each of you. I think that brings our time to a close here. So thank you so much for participating in the Prosper Brief. Ray Johnson with ReCee's Consulting.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Think of the candy war.
Right. Cord Mclean with Bloomin Brands and Emily Austin with Ziosk.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for having
You all
us.
had a wonderful time. I'm going to ask for
This
one
was
thing.
fantastic.
Just like we did when we were kids on a athletic team. Hands in real quick. Ready?
Love it.
Prosper on 3. 1, 2, 3. Prosper!
Thank you for tuning in. Today's conversation with Cord, Emily, and Ray offered invaluable insights into leadership, technology, and the heart of hospitality. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us next time for more inspiring discussions shaping the future of food service.